Welcome to the Innovia Consulting webinar series. This session is powered by US Transactions Corporation. USD is a boutique payment processing firm, providing you with personalized service. Scan the QR code to learn more about Innovia Consulting and to see the latest Business Central news and training for your business.
Wave release webinar. For those of you that are new to this webinar, we do this twice a year. After Microsoft drops the first Wave release in April and October. What we do is we look through the topics and we try to pick out our favorite features that we think from a user's perspective or from a technical perspective would be the most interesting. And then we try to, we present around some of those details. We don't cover everything that's in the Wave. That would take longer than our hour. And I'm curious if you think we should expand this to 90 minutes or not. Our email addresses will pop up here shortly. You could let me know if we should support a 90-minute webinar, give us a bit more time to cover the details. But thanks for joining us. And there's some interesting things, very exciting things in this release, as always. And appreciate you spending the time with us. Holly.
And I'm Holly Kutil, and I am going to talk to you guys about the finance side of the spectacular Wave in October that Microsoft has presented us with. Introducing Jeff to you.
Oh, hey everyone. I'm Jeff Pergolski, a pre-sales consultant with Innovia, and I will be, I think, sandwiched in between Holly and Jim and talking about the more technical side of this Wave 2 release.
Well, then, with no further ado, let's jump right into the financial side of this Wave release. It's exciting to see what Microsoft is doing with Business Central in the finance area. The biggest thing we've seen this past year has really been around our intercompany transactions and consolidations. And this Wave has been no different than the rest. Not only now can we do intercompany transactions and posting sales and purchase orders and creating all these documents one at a time instead of having to go in and out of companies, but now we also can do this across environments, which is really exciting. So now it doesn't have to be in your in particular tenant. You can have individual tenants for companies that you relate to and are connected to, and you can set up those intercompany transactions and journals and environments for both you and the opposing environment outside of your tenant, which is really, really exciting. Here are some of the things that we've seen. As you can see, intercompany used to be one journal, and now you can see all the different areas that I have for setup and intercompany abilities within the system. I've added the link at the bottom for the Microsoft Learn in the intercompany area. If you have more than one company in your current tenant or are planning to add companies there, or now if you have them in a separate environment, this is an area you really want to start taking notice of and a look at. Things that we expect to see at our DynamicsCon Live event in this spring. Also at our customer conference, there will be sessions around intercompany just for you guys so you can learn and begin to use this new functionality that's really rolled out for us. You can see there's now queues on our role centers. So if you're using Business Manager, you'll see the intercompany transaction queues telling us how many transactions we have to review and post, if there's ongoing or outgoing transactions that you've sent that still haven't been addressed, and if there's things that have been rejected. I expect to see more and more in the intercompany area. They've really taken notice of intercompany and how we have just received it and enjoyed the benefits of it already. And so they continue to add to it and add more rollouts to the features within the intercompany. So again, don't forget, there is the ideas page within Microsoft. So if you have ideas for intercompany or any of the other areas in Business Central, share them with Microsoft. Many of the things we see here are things that end users like you have added and put in as ideas, and they've adapted them and brought them into Business Central for us. The next financial area I want to mention is the enhanced allocation distribution. So this is on your general ledgers. ways to make sure that your amounts, when you're posting on, you can now use statistical accounts as well. But as you can see, you can set up cost allocations so that you can automate that posting, make sure it's going and distributing the way you expect it to within the system. Again, continuing to create more efficiencies and more robust ability for us in the financial area to make sure not only our jobs are easier and we are automating the things that we can, but also that we can make sure that they're efficient and that our postings are correct. This one is my favorite to talk about, improving the bank reconciliation process. Nobody in the financial team enjoys having to do bank reconciliations inside or outside of their ERP, and tends to be the thing that gets put off till the last minute or until 3 or 4 of them stack up, and then we're trying to play catch up. Microsoft has decided to integrate its Copilot with bank reconciliations as the first thing within Business Central. So those of you who maybe haven't heard of Copilot or just starting to hear about it and are wondering, what is it all about? Copilot is a virtual assistant. It's like you hired a clerical person in your office to come and work for you. So what Copilot will do, it's going to go in behind the scenes and do its very best to match up and handle everything on that bank reconciliation, so that all you have to do is come in and review, look up for those odd things that maybe were wrong or didn't match up, and then go ahead and post it. Copilot is something that's being used throughout Microsoft's products. We're already seeing it in Teams and in Outlook. In CRM's product, it's showing up as Viva Sales. But again, a virtual assistant. This is an assistant Microsoft has built inside our products so that we don't have to do all of those menial tasks anymore, and we can focus on the bigger picture. And that's a really exciting thing. We've already used it in our Teams platform when we're in meetings. Copilot joins us and sits at the table with us, and Copilot takes all the notes. And so at the end of the meeting, it summarizes everything we've talked about. It will even create action items for the things that were called out during the meeting. For those that said they would do something, it'll call them an action item and give them due dates if we share due dates. So Copilot's a really, really nice feature, and it's exciting to see that they've chosen the finance side to bring Copilot in as its first premiere in Business Central. And again, this is a preview in the October release. We should see it showing up in November in those features that you can turn on and start to look at and use and peruse. The next area is our favorite, reporting in Business Central. Everybody makes faces at the reporting inside of the Microsoft Nav program, but I'm hoping that you're starting to find the reporting that they're doing and that they're hearing us about those generic reports and bringing us more reporting features within Business Central. So one of those is, again, continued enhancements to that Excel add-on. So now editing in Excel. You can also now start to build templates out of your Excel program by bringing out those data sets and then creating a template and using pivot tables and all kinds of other functionality from Excel to create your reports, and then connect it and merge that with your Business Central so that those reports are saved and able to be recalled within your product going forward. One of those additional features is those Excel layouts. So again, I've added the link here for you to start taking a look at what Excel layouts look like and how you can utilize them in your Business Central environment. There's a little bit to it, but something that can be learned for sure. Again, remembering that they've added right within Business Central now the analysis view, where you can use those analysis views and you can bring in multiple tabs and pivot data right within the system. And I'm looking forward to seeing some webinars and some workshops around that Excel layouts and pivot tables and analysis views within Business Central going forward. And then the last are my honorable mentions from the finance area. Something that was really exciting to me, because since Business Central's inception, we've only been able to run statements that have the whole GL accounts on it by dates. Now we can generate a customer statement only with open entries. I'm sure everyone's going to be excited about that because it's been a pain in our sides since it came out, where we couldn't just get those open transactions. So now that's going to be available to you. So you can go along with only open entries moving forward. Adding existing table fields. This is beyond just finance. These fields that we couldn't see or couldn't bring into our tables that we want to look at in our ledgers are now available to us in the new release. So when you go to your list to personalize and grab your fields, you're going to see many more fields there that you hadn't in the past that you can add to your general ledgers and to your charts. And that's, oh, I missed one. The last one that I thought was really cool is using actions to go fix your errors. So we no longer have to decode the Microsoft messages on errors for us anymore. So as you can see in the screen print, not only now do we get it's an error, there's something wrong, but it tells us what we can do to correct the error. So again, AI learning, right? You can't modify the record because it's pending approval. Here's what you can do. You can add a comment, or you can reject the approval to go ahead and modify the record. And so then below it gives you the links to go ahead and do one of those two action items and continue on. If you decide you do want to revert and just refresh to undo those changes, they also add the refresh button right there next to it, which I think is genius. Instead of having to go to the ribbon to do refresh or find F5, you can just go right ahead and click on that and go back to square one and not do anything. So you have the two options to take action and one to just undo. And that's all I have today on the finance side. Over to you, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Holly. And all right, you should be looking at my screen right now. So I'm going to take you through very quickly the Power Platform and development updates. This is a part of Business Central that is becoming more and more important as we start to leverage the rest of the Office 365 stack from our ERP. So first thing that I am most excited about is this the new Business Central connector that has support for business events. This was introduced to us in the Wave 1 feature of 2023. They're now expanding this functionality. So it's easier to build flows in Power Automate based around specific business events, and no longer do we have just the option of a created entry in a sales invoice, or we can actually define what we want as a business event to start a trigger, and then because of the enhanced functionality added to this trigger, we've got the ability to specify which environment. If we've got multiple tenants within our BC environment, we can specify which company within those different tenants, and also now which user. So if we want specific, maybe there's an employee that we wanted to monitor a little bit more, or maybe they're in an important role. So when they do something, we want to have that be a trigger, and that's something that we can add. So really the power of this new functionality is, I think, going to help businesses really see the need or the possibilities behind Power Automate. The next one is sort of related to that, but Microsoft has raised the limit for working with large data sets in Power Automate, or triggering automation with multiple when we're dealing with multiple entities in Business Central. It used to be that there was a limit of 100 rows in the way that Power Automate flows in the virtual tables in the Dataverse were changed during a short period of time. So that 100-row limit could cause problems within our Power Automate environment, oftentimes causing the flow to lock up. Now that they've raised the limit from 100 to 1,000, I think that there's going to be a lot more advanced scenarios where we're going to do things to manipulate that data. We're going to use those multiple rows in different ways, and it's and it's going to and it's all going to work better. So that's something that on the development side people have been asking for a while now, and so we're happy to see it in this wave release. Next, we're talking about the additional functionality again in the Power Platform, but this time we're talking about Power BI and the embedded Power BI reports on the Role Center. It used to be that there was we were quite limited in how the Power BI part of the Role Center it was displayed. There was a fixed size. We could only display the first page of a multi-page Power BI report. If you wanted to show a different page in that, you had to split that out, create an entire new report. That wasn't very efficient. So the new features give you the ability to control which page you're displaying in the Power BI reports. Adjust the view. You can make it as big as full page if you want, and then also control the zoom level of the reports and the introduction of scorecards within Business Central. So creating some kind of automated KPIs. This is all exciting stuff for people like me that get to show the latest and greatest in demos. And so on top of that, there's an improved delivery mechanism. So its reports are going to interact more efficiently, and so there won't be any hiccups on the page, because sometimes the Power BI reports that we're embedding on a Role Center have a lot of data behind them, and so we want to make sure that doesn't slow down our users within the ERP application. So really excited about that. From there, I'm just going to touch. We're not going to get too technical today, but as we look at the rich text editor that we are going to have the ability to make pages look prettier through customization with just using the rich text functionality, which is a pretty basic feature. It used to be that we had access to this and we could control what font, colors, etc. looked like, but only as it related to the emails that we created within Business Central in terms of business notifications. Now we're going to be able to use that same functionality all over in the system. So I've got it highlighted here. We can start to create pages if we're going to create a custom tab on a specific page in Business Central, and we want to call attention to that. Maybe we're going to call out a credit limit information or specific shipping instructions for a customer. We can start to raise awareness by changing colors and using different fonts on our pages. So that's a tool that again, we could accomplish some of those things using workarounds, but now we're going to have access to that rich text editor right within Business Central. Another exciting part for developers is the ability to add existing table fields to pages. Now, of course, excuse me, we could always do that, but now we've got access to all fields. And that means any field that exists in our database, essentially, we can add to a table and add to a page. So that is pretty exciting. Here you see I've got a remaining amount. And we're going to show that, and it gets, as soon as we add that field, it gets automatically shared. Excuse me. So Holly already covered the improved Excel functionality. Let's see here. Granular administration, the new IT roles that give access to people in our organization that need to manage Business Central, but don't need to manage anything else in our Office 365 tenant. Microsoft has created specific roles along with granular admin. And the last but not least is the multiple performance improvements that Microsoft has introduced now, which result in faster data loads in the server. faster application scenarios. So when we're interacting with other pieces and parts of Business Central and the Office 365 platform, all those things are going to happen more efficiently, and then faster page loads in the client and fewer locks in the database. So I think that that was it. I am rapidly losing my voice, so I'm going to hand it off to Jim.
Thanks, Jeff. Perfect timing. Okay, let me take control here. And why is it not letting me start my slideshow? Okay, we'll do it this way. Here we go. Okay. Do you guys have a screen that says application improves productivity?
I do not. I see you.
Okay, hold on.
Screen.
Where'd Zoom go? Share screen. Ah, that's a problem. How about now?
Still don't see it.
Why is it not sharing? Okay, let's try this one more time. Screen 3, share. Ah, there's a button called share that you need to press.
I can see it now.
Thanks. Okay, and I need to change slides here just a second. Okay, so I generally focus on the operations area of Business Central. So that's for me, warehousing and production. And if you've attended the last couple of wave releases, we've been talking about some changes in the warehousing area, basically becoming more and more functional at lower levels of how your locations are set up. They're basically kind of doing away with all the requirements for directed pick and put away, and I'm going to explain all that. So last release we had quite a few, and then this release there's even more expansion into that area. So we're going to jump right in, and so these are my 4 kind of top features in the warehouse. There are more, and I'm going to demo these as well. But directed pick and put away features are now available inside basic locations. We'll define that. Over receive is now available with an inventory put away, which is nice because they introduced over receiving a long time ago with purchase orders. But then if you're using any warehouse documents, if you've over received, you got kind of tripped up. So it's nice to see that that's added to the inventory put away. There are more document configuration options available in locations. And one of my all-time favorites, item availability fax box has now been added, and we'll look at that one. That's going to require a little bit longer webinar than we have. I think there's a lot going on there, and I think to really explain how that's working, it requires a little bit more time than we have available. So we'll do something soon to drill down just in that particular feature, because I think it's really solves a problem. So I have a couple of screenshots to help talk about what we're seeing in that function. And like I say, stay tuned. We'll do something in the future with this, got more details. So here we have a sales order for which we've created a warehouse pick. Pick is an instruction that says go out, grab some stuff. But the challenge has always been, when we move into more areas of advanced warehousing, we have a location, and that location can be either physical or virtual or both. But then inside that location, we subdivide that into zones and bins as we use more advanced warehousing. There's various features and reasons that you'd want to do that. The challenge has been, from a customer service perspective, is what can I pick, even from a dispatch manager's perspective or warehouse manager's perspective? What is really available to pick? So there was never an easy question to answer. So I may have 1,000 pieces in the warehouse, they're all quarantined, and I can't really pick those. So the location, if a sales order entry person was looking, they would see 1,000 pieces. Sure, we can ship that order. But the reality is those were not available. And so there's been customizations and things to give us that view into the warehouse of what is really pickable. But now we have this that's been created off of the pick activity. So this is a warehouse pick, and I can see here that, oh, let me qualify this. This feature is only available currently for customers that are using directed pick and put away, so using the most advanced set of functionality inside the warehouse. So, but I can see now exactly what the situation is. I've got 16 in my location, but only 5 are in pickable bins. So this will help answer that question. I need 2 here, but I've only got 1 available, obviously. So there must be something else going on, right? And there is. So that's the first thing. And the next piece is having to do with reservations as well. I can see here in that, oh, where'd my other little slide go? There is another slide that I had, or screenshot that I had, that was missing, but down here, it'll also tell me what we have from a reservation perspective. So I can see the impact of reservations as well as what's in pickable bins versus non-pickable bins. But I wanted to share just that little piece. It's more of a teaser. We do need to drill down more carefully into that and in a longer webinar to really explain all the subtleties and nuances that are associated with this particular piece of functionality. Okay, so the next one is location and what's happening with locations. And here I have to kind of do a before and after view before I go into the actual demo itself. So this is the view of the silver warehouse. For those of you that have worked in demo data, silver is one that we pick on a regular basis. This is what the location in the warehouse tab looks like. I need to slide this out of my way so I can see what the warehouse tab looks like. So over here, we have various documents that we could expose or that we could use to set up a warehouse that we're using on these internal warehousing documents and so on. But now what we have is this, and this has more additional changes available for our lesser configured warehouse. And so let's talk about some of those differences. The first thing is the trade documents retain their previous options. So trade documents, sales orders, purchase orders, those kinds of documents, they can be configured here. You see purchase, sales, service, and transfer. And those can be configured to require receive, require shipment, require put away, and require pick. That remains the same. And for those of you that are not familiar with the way the warehousing is set up, those are separate documents that we use for kind of internal operations, require receive and ship and so on, inside a more advanced warehouse. And so those remain the same. We just have different toggles for how we turn those on. But what you see now is that inventory picks and putaways are exposed to various transactions. We've got production consumption, production output, assembly consumption, and job consumption. And those are all controlled by these drop-down boxes over here, where we have various options. And the options for them are, I could have no warehouse handling required whatsoever. And notice that these are granular. I could have an inventory pick movement for production consumption, or and for consumption on assembly orders, I have no warehouse handling. We never had that possibility before. If I configured my warehouse for advanced warehousing, it applied to everything, or it didn't apply to any of those documents. So now the consumption is applied to those, and production output can be configured as either no warehouse or using now the inventory put away, which is nice. In bin policies, in our silver location, we now have, or the old version, for putaways, we had putaway templates only in the old version. Now in this version, in this wave, we have some new drop-down possibilities. We have a putaway template here that's possible, and we're going to look at putaway templates, what those are, and which putaway template is by default for that particular warehouse. So this is all great new stuff that we're going to be able to work in and configure locations very, very specifically for how we want to operate. And we are going to go do that now. Oh, let's see. Okay. Last release, wave 1, we introduced special equipment and bin capacity policies and warehouse classes. That was in wave 1. And so that was the first rollout. And now we have these over here that I mentioned. And now it's time to go look and demo that. And so give me just a second. I'm going to transition into Business Central, and we will take a look. Okay, you all should be seeing my Business Central screen now. Let me make this maximize so we get as much as we can. All right, so the first thing is we're going to go look at a pick for a production order. So let me go into production orders. I have a release production order set up. And that's this production order here. Okay, so you recognize that we're no longer doing bicycles. We're working with coffee data. That's been a nice change from a demo perspective to be able to have some new products. We've been doing bicycles for God knows how many years, how many inside nav. So now in Business Central, we have coffee maker demo, which is kind of fun. So here's our release production order, pretty straightforward. We need to make 10 pieces, finished goods, and we're working in our silver location down here. And we need to generate an inventory pick for this. So this is new, to be able to generate the inventory pick for the production order. And to do that, we go up here and we choose create pick. And this is a little bit of an odd thing. That should be retaining my silver location from last time. I'm not sure why it's not doing that, but I do need to put the location code in here. And we're going to change to inventory pick here, not a put away. And you can see you've got various toggles for the transaction that you want to do. And that's all that's required for this particular pick. And we're going to go ahead and say, okay. And now it's going to create an inventory pick for that production order. So now let's go take a look at that. And we'll go related here, and we'll go look at our inventory pick lines, excuse me. And we have a document here that's created, and we'll show the document. Let's make this a little bit larger. Okay, so here's our inventory pick, right? And from a location perspective set up with silver, we're not using zones, which is a higher classification of inventory storage locations, units inside Business Central, but we are using bins. And I can see my bin code down here, right? And so I need, for most of these, or all these components, we need a quantity of 10 to complete the production order. And so, but down here, you can see, wait a minute, this thing is duplicated. I wonder why it's duplicated. So let's go look at the components for a second. Oh, I got to do the components on the production order. Let me close this. We'll go look at the component lines. And we can see that requires 10, at least of most of the items. This one's set to forward flush, so it already, when I post this, we'll post the consumption. But this one, we need 10, so that number is correct. But somehow we ended up with 2 lines for that production order pick. So let's go see why that would be. So let me go back to my components, and we'll go look at the item itself. So go back here. Oops, that's not what I want. I want to go here. Okay, so now this individual component, we're going to go look at that. And that little tooltip was a couple of wave releases ago. You can drill down into things and get very quickly into the individual item. And in this case, if we look in the bin contents for this, I'm going to edit and go related and bin contents. Okay, you can see in the bin contents that we've got a number of entries here. And what I want to point out here is this column here. This is new. This is bin ranking. So bin ranking is where we tell the system where to go get stuff first. And we go by the highest rank. In this case, this bin S101, you can see here it has a quantity of 3. The bin ranking is 450. So when the pick was created, it said, hey, go get 3 there. And then go find the next bin with the same, with the next higher bin ranking, and so on. So in this case, the next one down is 400. We've got some inventory there. And so that's why we get that pick line created to go grab 7 for that. So if you want to do what I would call poor man's FIFO, this is one way to do that. You can put your stuff away properly and always pick your oldest inventory first, as long as you know to put newer inventory in a different bin, in appropriate bin ranking. Then you'll always be pulling your older inventory without having to turn on lot tracking or other things like that. So it's a nice way of making sure you're pulling older inventory. And that, so we can see that pick then got created for that. So that's two new features kind of in there. First of all, the inventory pick for the production order, plus having exposing the bin ranking to the bin contents for this silver location. Now that feature's always been around, but it's only been in the most advanced warehousing setups. And sometimes that wasn't convenient. There's some things with directed put away and pick that make it a little bit more challenging. And so often customers would not turn it on. But now we have that ability inside the silver location or lesser configurations. Okay, so that's the inventory pick. And then of course, to register that, we would just post the inventory pick, and then it'll post the consumption depending upon the configurations that you have for how you're flushed. If you're forward flushing, back flushing, manual flushing, all of that. But that's more of a conversation for around how you would configure production orders and the consumption of the items. But at least now we have the ability to do this on the inventory pick. And yes, I could have printed the report, sent that out to the warehouse so they can annotate it and all that kind of stuff. All right, so that's warehousing on the inventory side from a pick perspective. And remember, these are exposed to jobs and assembly orders as well. So the same concepts apply to those particular transactions as well. Okay, let's go look at the other side and put away, and we'll go to a purchase order. So let me drill here and go to purchase orders. And I have one entered here. And for this one, we're going to do a put away. So note that this is released. I want to reopen it and I want to check one thing here to make sure that I did not forget to delete this earlier. I think I did. Yeah, okay, good. I haven't created it yet. So for this, we're going to go ahead and release this production or this purchase order and receive it. Okay, so from last time, you may recall that the modern action bar has this split line. So your most often used feature or action on this action bar is the one that's exposed. So instead of having to open this up and say release, I can just now click on release. That's a couple of wave releases ago. It's one of those nice little productivity features that I like to point out. Okay, so from this, we're going to go create an inventory put away. And so we'll change that and put in silver. Now, what is the inventory put away? The inventory put away is a list set of instructions that we give to someone in the warehouse that tells us where to go put stuff. Just that simple. And in some cases, we'll tell the system where we put it, or in some cases, we want to tell them where to put it. And we're going to see both of those. All right, so you can see here, my favorite coffee here, whole roasted beans, Sumatra. That's my favorite. Low acid coffee, we've got that on order, and we have an item that I created called put away, just to demonstrate a couple of things. So we created an inventory put away, and now we'll go here, we'll take a look at it, look at the inventory put away lines, and we will show document. Okay, so here's the put away instruction. Now what it's telling us is obviously we're taking things from receiving and we're going to put them away into some various bins. Now, you may notice that we only had two lines on the purchase order. We had the put away item. We also had the Sumatra beans. But now I have two bid lines, and we want to investigate, why that might be happening. And it's happening because of the ability now in this silver location to define min-max quantities for what we can hold inside a bin. Once again, that's an advanced feature being brought down to a lesser location. So I'm going to drill down into the item and show you where that gets set up. And in our, here's my item page or item card. And we have the bin contents where we set up certain parameters of how this thing gets stored in the warehouse. And in this case, you can see the bin that we're working with, S-03-001, has a maximum quantity of 50 bags. 50 bags is all that will fit in that particular bin. And so when I generated that put away instruction, here, I'm on it. When I generated put away the instruction, it acknowledged that bin was empty and that we could only put 50. And so the next line down says, hey, wait a minute, go put 60 in this bin. And so the question also is, well, why did it pick that bin? And this points out using the put away templates that I mentioned earlier that allow us to define how the system determines where to suggest putting something away. And again, we'll drill down into the item here. And let's edit this. And you see down here in the warehouse tab for our Sumatra beans, we have a put away template code, which is now exposed. And in the put away template, we can go look at that. And this put away template helps us define the rules for how to suggest an item. Now, in this case, we have 3 steps that are involved. Floating bins is just an open bin in the warehouse. It wants to try and find the same item. It wants to try and find the same unit of measure. If you're using cases and pallets, cases and eaches, that kind of thing, let's find the same unit of measure. And if it finds a match, then that's the bin that's going to put things away in or suggest. If we can't do that, then we go to the next one. It says find a floating bin, find an empty bin. If you got no empty bins in your warehouse, you need a bigger warehouse. But if that doesn't work, then it just says find a floating bin anywhere and don't acknowledge the capacity, just suggest that you put it there. So that's not a realistic example, but that's what the put away templates help define for us, is to where to suggest it. All right, so in this case, it did that, and it found the next open bin, and that's why we're seeing 2 of those. Now this item here, the put away item, the bin code is blank. So we didn't get a suggestion there. Well, I wonder why that would be. Again, let's go look at the put away rules for this particular item. And I'll edit. And down here, you can see that it says, look, try and find the same item. And that's what we've defined this as. So this same item feature is, first of all, we're looking for a fixed bin. The difference between a fixed bin and a floating bin is fixed bins I define. This is the bin where this item always gets stored, even when I don't have any inventory. Some customers are regularly ordering stuff, the same product over and over. They always want to make sure they have space for it. And so that's what the fixed bin concept is. So it says, first of all, look for a fixed bin. Then it says find the same item and find a bin with less than the minimum quantity. And in this case, we couldn't find that. Next thing is find a fixed bin, look for the same item. Don't have this inventory. So it didn't find that either. So the bin code is blank on the put away, allowing the user to decide where to put it. And then when we post this, we would update that and we would post it with the bin code that was actually used to put it away. Obviously there's some ISV solutions that help do this from a wireless perspective, but from an out-of-the-box perspective with Business Central, you would hand annotate the piece of paper, and then that would get entered when the inventory was posted. And over here, I want you to see that we now also have this over receipt quantity and the over receipt code. So in this example, we ordered 110 on the purchase order, but if I actually received 120, I would say, okay, I actually have 10 here. Oops, not 100, 10 to put away. And I would choose what the over receipt code is here. And refresh. Well, that's the concept. I'm missing a setup piece. So the over receipt would allow me to over receive that and post that on the inventory put away. Right. Also, nice feature because we're going to now be able to use inventory putaways in this basic location. So those are the most interesting items in the warehouse piece that I found. There are more, And as Holly mentioned, you can find out the other additional items by going into the release notes on the Microsoft Learn site, and we'll show a link to that here later on. Okay, so let me go back here and change back to slides. Okay. Now, in addition to the warehousing piece, I always like to look at the user experience. I'm a user, and I can find ways to break the system in ways that people hadn't thought of before. I am just a typical user that rolls around, and so I look at the productivity enhancements that make my job easier. We run Business Central in our company, and I have to use it on a regular basis, and I want to make things as fast and easy as I can, and in that. For me, that generally means fewer mouse clicks. And Microsoft has just been doing a really great job of adding little things here and there to make it more productive. Some of the ones I want to talk about today are some changes to the way Page Inspector works. Jeff mentioned the personalized now, and I think Jeff and Holly both, around the table fields are unlocked. We must like this a lot because all three of us chose that. I'll show that one. Show related record details from the lookup. I've been doing that. Maybe some of you that are watching closely noticed that I was doing that, and I'll show you a little bit, talk about that. Distinguish between browser tabs when multitasking. As I said, we run Business Central. We have a Canadian company and a Canadian environment and a US environment, and I frequently have to go in between the two environments. And so for me, to get in and out of those and see where I was is terrific. And then marking fields is read-only when customizing the UI. I wasn't going to necessarily add that, but I don't know, about a week or so ago, inside the Doug forum, the user group forum, a user asked that very question, and I said, "Hey, it's coming in this release, so stand by." And so we'll take a look at that one as well. Okay, I think I go to demo. Yes, go to demo. I'm doing it on time. 10 minutes. I think we're going to make it. Okay, so the first one is a Page Inspector. So Page Inspector is that area where we can go look at the data underlying a page and other things. So we can get to that under the Help menu. And down here we have Page Inspector, inspect pages and data. Okay. Where is it loading or not loading? Let's try this again. Oh, it is loading. It's just doing it slowly.
We need to have those new performance enhancements updated in our demo environment, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? This is acting a little odd. It loaded earlier today. I don't know. There we go. Gosh, very slow. Okay, and I might have. See, I'm a user. I'm not patient. I quit too quickly, so got out of it. All right. So Page Inspector. What do we see in Page Inspector? Page Inspector is where we can go look at the underlying data fields that are on our particular page. And there's some nice new features here. The first one I want to point out is for the developers in the world. And unfortunately, this doesn't work for me because I don't have Visual Studio installed on my system, and probably people don't want me to have that. But for those of you that are developers, you can now go click on this link and it'll take you right into the Visual Studio code that's executing on this page for troubleshooting and for finding out, hey, what's going on. The other thing that's nice about this is that over here now, of course, we have the look around, so we can find a particular field that I want. I can look here and I can see exactly which fields are in the underlying data tables. And when I click on any one of these fields, it'll take me directly to the page or to the field on the page, and it'll show me right where it is, right? So notice when I did that, it opened up the show more dialog for me that was up here. So I didn't have to do that, and I didn't have to hunt around. It takes me right into where that field is on the page. So that's a nice bit of enhancements on the page inspector area. Okay, the next one is personalize. All right, so in personalize, and Jeff did mention this, we'll go up here and we'll personalize the page. Now all table fields are exposed. For those of you that have been using Nav for a long time, we've been missing that for quite a while. And now all the fields are exposed. And if I needed to add a field, boy, the demo in Sandbox is slow. Arr. Well, let's try and reload that again. Well, when this eventually loads, what we're going to get on the right-hand side is all the fields that are on the table that it supports, in this case, the sales order line. Let me log out. Oh, no, there we go. Sandbox is not usually this slow. I'm a little surprised by this behavior today.
Colleen.
Yes. Well, I did promise there'd be no tricks, it'd all be treats, but this is someone doing a little trick on me here. Okay, well, this is an unfortunate little event, and I don't have screenshots for this particular element. So let's do this. Let me log out, log back in, and see if that makes a difference. That sometimes does. Okay. All right, well, let me just talk about what's there. So on the designer page, now when I click on that and able to add a field, all the table fields that the developer wanted to expose to us for if you've got a customization will be available for us to add into that particular page. And of course, Microsoft is determined there's some fields also that aren't going to be shown, but those aren't really productive fields for most of us. So if I wanted to add that field, it's going to be there. In addition, what we've introduced is through role center personalization, we can expose additional fields that apply to the role center personalization. So those fields, all fields that are not in just necessarily the primary table that we're looking at on the page, but also all the supporting fields as well. So it's something that's great. I was hoping to be able to show it to you, and it looks like I am down hard here. Rats. Let me end this and see if I can't go back in. That's unfortunate. Let's end Chrome or Edge. Well, I'm kind of completely locked up here. So let me just describe. Let's take one other possibility. Okay, I have a Chrome instance loaded up, and we can work in Chrome for just a second, and then maybe the Edge will come back. So I talked about the ability to use the drill into feature. Let's go to an open sales order here. Okay, so you'll notice that when we hover on certain things, we now get this option right here that says show details. So in the past, you just have to drill down with multiple mouse clicks. With a single mouse click, I can now get to the details about that particular record. So in this case, it took me directly to the item page. So then I can go and do whatever it is I needed to do, and then I can go back to where I was. So it's a nice feature. You will see the show details liberally spaced throughout the application, and it takes you right to the page for that subsidiary record. It's a nice little feature. Okay, let me see if Edge is back. No, it's not. Okay. Well, here's another thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the productivity of having multiple companies open with multiple tabs. As I said, I regularly work in my Canadian environment and my US environment. And often I need to look at the item list on both because I need information, because not all the items have been transferred over. That happens to a lot of you. So in the past, it was a little bit challenging to see, which company and where I was. So I didn't set this up properly for Chrome. I was going to use Edge because Edge has a slightly different impression. Chrome doesn't support side tabs out of the box. You have to put an extension, and they don't have an extension for that. So let me log in here. Okay, so introduced before in a couple of waves ago, we have the ability to switch companies by going into here and choosing which company. And so I want to switch into my Contoso Coffee company. So I'll click on Contoso Coffee and I'll just say switch and open in a new tab. Now, before I do that, though, I also want to point out, let me go to my item page for a second. Okay, so on the item page, if I'm working, like I say, looking at one company and the other company to see which I have available, I click here and I go into switch, and it'll take me to the same company or the same list on a new page. But what I want you to see is up here on these tabs. Notice it says items, and this is my Bona Mocha coffee, and so it tells me which table I'm in, or which company I'm in, and which page I'm on. So now I can scroll around and see exactly where I am. In the past, this would have just said the company name, so you never really knew exactly where you were. So I find this to be really, really helpful to know exactly which company I'm in and which page I'm on. So, okay, I did have a couple more things that I wanted to show you, but with Edge not cooperating, I'm not going to be able to do that. The last one was to mark fields as read only. Oh, I can do this here. So if I have a field, let's open up the item page for a second. And if I wanted to mark a field as read only, once that opens up, we can open up the designer or personalize, excuse me. And let's just say I want the G10 to be read only. I can go here and I can say exclude from quick lock editing. So once I put that as lock editing, this field now will not allow me to do any edits in it, right? So you can do that throughout the application. I think the specific question was on the sales order that this user didn't want the their users to be able to change the salesperson code. That was by defaulted from setup, and they didn't want to change that. So that was a nice application of that new feature as well. Okay, so that takes me back to my slides here. Just a second, let me change. Sorry about Edge not being cooperative. Let's see here. Okay, and all right, so Holly mentioned, where do you enter in ideas for features that you'd like to see? I can't encourage you more to do that, and this is the shortcut link to get to that. You can see our own Kevin Fons from Innovia has submitted 110 ideas, and he's running about, what is that, a little less than 20% accuracy on ideas that Microsoft has adopted. Kevin is a frequent contributor, as you can see, but this is where you can be heard. And so please take a note of that particular link and let Microsoft know what you think about various features. You can also get to this directly if you're in a Microsoft Learn article. You can get to that page at the bottom. There's a link that says take me to BC Ideas. So you can comment on that particular idea as well. Okay, we are right up against time. Let me see. There's quite a few questions. Let me see here real quick. I didn't want to share that one over there. You know what? What we'll do is we'll scroll back through the questions and we'll see if there's any. We've got your name and email address. We'll answer those questions related to the functionality. For UST team, I see there's a couple of CPE questions. If you want to take those, that'd be great. Okay, training workshops for Inovia.com. On the resource tab, there's lots of different workshops. All the webinars that we've done are available as well from that same page. Take a look at the training workshops if you're looking for a particular item. Some of them are available on demand from the past as well. So, for example, a customer recently asked me about fixed assets. We had a great fixed asset webinar that was available on the resource page. Then we also had a training session on them as well. Jeff, you want to put a shameless plug in for the podcast?
Sure. If you are at a ridiculously involved level with Business Central and you can't get enough of it, please consider adding us to your podcast listening list.
Excellent. And let's see, next page. DynamicsCon Live, May 2024, and in InoviaCon Live. So as you know, we're a big supporter of the Dynamics Users Group, and their conference this year is in May. It's in Denver at the beautiful Technology Center. There are some early bird discounts that expire today, so please follow this link and register. And for the DynamicsCon and for the InoviaCon, that link will take you to the same location. I will say thank you on behalf of the group, and UST, if you've got anything that you'd like to address from the CPE questions that came in, that'd be great for now. Thanks.
Jim, did you say they extended the deadline for early bird till next Friday for DynamicsCon?
I did not see that. Thank you, Holly, for pointing that out.
Through a little while ago, they've extended the deadline until next Friday, November 3rd. So you can still
Okay, great.
At the discounted rate.
Terrific. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I missed that.
Thank you, Holly.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yes, happy Halloween. Thanks you guys for attending. We really appreciate it. Go out and eat a bunch of candy and have some fun tonight. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.